week 9 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few running backs I would bench this week. The first guy, James Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So James Robinson, he avoided serious injury, reports came out the other day with his foot, but we don't know if he's even going to play in this game. But if he plays or not, he's a running back, in my opinion, to bench this week. They've versed the Buffalo Bills that give up the least amount of fantasy points to running backs, and this ball game could get out of hand early like we saw last week with Seattle and Jacksonville, where Trevor Lawrence is running for his life, and he's just going to have to throw the football around the field a whole bunch of times and not really get anything going. So right now with the injury and the matchup, if you got better options or you got better options on the waiver wire as a play, I would bench James Robinson this week, because even if he plays, he's not 100%. And with the matchup, there's no real reason to play him, because I don't think he's going to get anything done in this ball game this week. The second running back I will bench this week is Michael Carter of the New York Jets. So Michael Carter, he's been having some great games over the last 3 weeks here. But Carter, this week, a very tough matchup for him and the New York Jets versus a tough Indianapolis Colts defense that gives up the second least amount of fantasy points to running backs. But the last few weeks, like I mentioned, Carter has been great. Week 5 at Atlanta, 10 carries, 38 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 20 yards. Week 7 at the Patriots, 11 carries, 37 yards, 8 catches, 67 yards, and a fumble loss. In Week 8 versus Cincinnati, a huge ball game, 15 carries, 77 yards, a rushing touchdown, and a whopping 9 catches for 95 yards. But this week here in Indianapolis, they're good versus running backs. And Ty Johnson has been in the mix as well here for this New York Jet team as a running back receiver out of the backfield. So right here, no way I see him get over 30 fantasy points like he did last week in PPR leagues as Michael Carter. And this week, I think the numbers will be low and he won't have a big game. But everyone is backing him now after the huge ball game last week by thinking this one, the numbers go down and the Colts try to stop him as the Jets' #1 option that he's been over the last few weeks on this offense. The next running back is Adrian Peterson of the Tennessee Titans. So Adrian Peterson, he signed with the Titans early in the week after the news broke that Derrick Henry is going to be out 6 to 10 weeks or possibly the whole season here. So Peterson, he's got to learn the playbook. We know he's 35, 36 years old. We don't know how great of shape he's in as well this week. And this week I could see this Los Angeles Ram team totally shutting down the run. And I could see them throwing the football a whole bunch of times as Ryan Tannehill and this Tennessee Titan team. So Jeremy McNichols, I recommended him as a start this week. But Peterson, I just don't see him playing a lot of snaps in this game. And I don't see him being worthy of a start, especially versus a tough Ram team in his first game of the whole season here. So Peterson this week, I would pump the brakes and keep him on my bench. No doubt about it, he should be on most fantasy rosters, is Peterson. But this week, his first week back with the tough matchup and the lack of playbook, and who knows what shape he's in, it's easier to bench him, in my opinion. The next running back is Javante Williams of the Denver Broncos. So the last couple weeks, it's been surprising that Melvin Gordon has been the better running back over there in Denver this season, the last 3 weeks. But Javante Williams, he's had a decent rookie year, no doubt about it. But the last few games for him, Week 6 versus Vegas, 11 carries, 53 yards, and 3 catches for 15 yards. Week 7 at Cleveland, only 4 carries, 6 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown. And last week versus Washington, 9 carries, 35 yards, and 2 catches for 13 yards. So he's still getting a decent workload, anywhere from 10 to 12 touches a game total. But Melvin Gordon, he's getting the special touchdowns that you need in fantasy to boost your points up. And Gordon last week had 2 touchdowns. And these guys, they're pretty much a 50-50 split over there in Denver. But I'm not going to go with both these guys in my lineup this week. So if I would have to choose one, it would be the veteran Melvin Gordon. And I think Denver in this game, they want to keep this high-powered Cowboy offense off the field, especially if Dak Prescott comes back in this game. So right here, I think we see a little more of Gordon in this one, and we don't see Williams doing much like he did last week in the 5th and final running back I will bench this week. Devin Singletary of the Buffalo Bills. So Singletary, I mentioned to drop him this week in fantasy leagues, but for whatever reason, he's still owned in 66% of fantasy leagues, and this guy hasn't done anything really since Week 2 in Miami. So the last few weeks here for Singletary, Week 5 at Kansas City, 6 carries, 25 yards, a catch for -2 yards. Week 6 at Tennessee, 5 carries, 27 yards, and 5 catches, 16 yards. And last week in a very plus matchup versus Miami on paper, 7 carries, 28 yards, and a catch for 1 yard. So right here, Zach Moss is the better running back over there in Buffalo. And this Bill team, they just run the football to try to keep defenses honest. We see Josh Allen get more rushing yards pretty much than both running backs over there in Buffalo. And there's no reason to have confidence to play Singletary. So that's a few running backs I would bench you in Week 9 of the fantasy football season.